Hey everyone, and welcome to another video, and today we're checking out the Kawa T6 Pro security camera. So the main selling feature of this particular security camera is its low aperture. So it has an f1.0 aperture and it has built-in AI as well. It does have Wi-Fi as well as Ethernet or PoE connectivity. It does have the option of a micro SD card for local storage. You have motion zones that you can turn on to trigger detection. You have sound detection, cloud storage. You do have the option of both DC as well as PoE, and you do have a built-in sound as well as a light alarm on the actual camera unit itself. So take a look at everything that you actually get in the pack. So as you can see, it does come with the DC connectivity. PoE obviously you will have to supply yourself, so you will need some sort of external setup for that. On the bottom of the camera you have both the reset button as well as a little section where you can open it and use any onboard storage that you might want to use. On the front of the camera you do have 4 LEDs, and the design of it means that the actual lens of the camera is exposed, which is a good thing. In this shot you can see that it does have 2 Wi-Fi antennas, and both of them to my testing seem to work fine over Wi-Fi, but obviously you do have the option of PoE. Now the good thing about this particular design is because the LEDs are encased in a separate section to the actual camera lens itself, the lens isn't covered with the same sort of perspex or glass. It means that you're not going to get any glare from any of those lenses at night, or if you get any reflection or refraction from the sunlight during the day, depending on how you've got this angled. At the back of the camera you can see that you have both the DC connection as well as the Ethernet, and you do have options to keep everything watertight. It comes with all the grommets and everything that you would need for that. Okay, so coming on to the setup now. So setup is pretty straightforward. You're just going into the app and you follow the instructions. Just make sure that obviously you have it near you and plugged in when you actually do this. It doesn't take long, but it can take longer than you might expect because of just the design of the app itself. It is very basic, and the installation style is more similar to Bluetooth modules and light control units, where you switch to your Wi-Fi settings. So you enter the details for your actual Wi-Fi, you then switch, and then you connect to the Wi-Fi hotspot of the actual camera itself. Once you've done that, you then switch back to the actual Kawa app, and at that point it will then go and connect. Now this process did actually take a lot longer than what I show on screen. I've cut out most of it because I didn't want you to sit around waiting, watching it load. Straight away it does actually give you a test signal. Now that's always going to be perfect because generally you can be setting this up inside, and that's what you definitely want to do, but you can retest your signal strength and everything once you've got it set up in the actual location. Okay, so now we'll come on to the actual video sample. So this is when I first set it up. As you can see, this is during the day, and this does have a 2K lens. The resolution that this recorded in was 2688 by 1520. Now in this particular shot, as you can see, there is a person in frame. He goes through the screen and there's nothing really out the ordinary. It's just a simple recording. This camera does actually have an option where you can turn on person detection, so you can turn on the AI, what the AI sees. So in this next clip I've actually included that, and this is how it actually records, so you can see when it detects a person. That clip did cut off rather abruptly, so unfortunately I didn't have more of that, but I do have other clips where coming up now where you will see how even in low light, and this is a recording where it's just past, in fact this was probably about an hour after sunset, so it's not quite fully dark, but it's not exactly light at this point either. And you can see this is where the f1.0 aperture of this particular camera lens actually comes into effect. Now as you can see, here's where it actually kicks in, and you can see the person, and it's basically tracking the person. At night it can trip out a little bit because of walls and objects like that, but I've found that it was pretty good and pretty accurate when it came to detecting any type of motion like that. You do have the option obviously setting up motion zones that will trigger recordings accordingly. And now coming on to the fully dark shot, and this is obviously 6 o'clock, and sunset was around about just before 4 o'clock at this point. So this is around about 2 hours after sunset, and this is me just toggling through the different sort of modes with the LEDs on and with them off. I personally find that the LEDs actually make the picture worse, and you should just leave the camera to do its magic. Now, comparing side by side to one of the other security cameras I've got, as you can see, it's not the best angle because I couldn't get the exact same angle, but you can see the difference this camera actually makes in terms of how much more light it's capturing and how much clearer the actual image is. It also records in faster frame rates as well. So now we'll come on to the actual frame rates. Okay, so during the day, as you can see, it was recording at 24.6, or basically around about 25 FPS. Just after sunset, it was recording at 16, and the night shot was actually recording at 18. So it's on average, it's recording around about 17 or 18 FPS at night and around about 25 FPS during the day, which for me makes a big difference when it comes to security cameras. So that's my look at the Kawa T6 Pro. I find the camera and the hardware itself to be very good. The software, unfortunately, is not quite so good. It's not quite so polished as some of the more popular sort of camera brands out there. I believe this is a Kickstarter sort of camera, so the app itself is probably something that they could still work on. If they do bring that up and add some extra connectivity, such as either HomeKit, NAS support, anything that gives you connectivity to some of your existing home ecosystems, Homebridge perhaps. I did have a look on the Homebridge website. I couldn't find no plugins for this particular camera, which is a shame because the actual performance of the camera is really good. It's just a shame that it's tied down into its own app, and whilst it's pretty comprehensive in terms of what it does, the features in terms of motion zones, everything like that, it's just a shame that you can't export that signal to HomeKit or some other means of home ecosystem that you're actually using and make it easier for you to actually incorporate that into your existing setup, whereas this has to stay in its own standalone app. I will have links for the product in the description below. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer them. If you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I'd really appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up as well. And until the next one, thanks very much for watching.